Let's look at the beginning of the kata. The uke holds the sword and dagger in his right hand, with the sword on the outside held at a 45-degree angle. Both blades should be turned upward. They turn to the front and bow. Then they sit facing each other. The uke lays his weapons beside him, making sure that the dagger is on the inside. He and the tori bow to each other. The uke picks up his weapons with the dagger on the inside, stands, turns around, walks back 1.8 meters and sits in seiza. He holds the weapons vertically in front of him, and with his left hand supporting the sword, he lays the weapons down to the left on the mat. Both blades should be towards him. The uke and tori stand simultaneously, after which the uke returns to his former position facing the tori. Together they move forward, starting with their left foot, stop, and sit. Atemiwaza are techniques used to attack vital points by striking, kicking, or thrusting. Since the Kime no kata were established to master the most effective techniques for serious competition, the kata include atemiwaza, which are not used in nandori. In order to be able to execute atemiwaza with precision and speed, it is essential to understand the location of the vital points and the parts of the body with which the attacks are executed. Let's look at the vital points. Uto, between the eyes. Kasumi, temple. Suigetsu, solar plexus. Kokan no kyusho, groin. The parts of the body used as weapons are the outside edge of the hand, as in a hand chop, the fist, the padded area beneath the little finger with the fist clenched, the elbow, the foot, the sekito or ball of the foot, and the knee. With atemiwaza in mind, let's take a look at the main points of the Kime no kata. Ryotedori. The two move to within 90 centimeters of each other, stop and sit. While seated, they advance to within 2 fist widths of each other, what is known as the hizazume no mai or hizazume position. The tori breaks the uke's balance to the front and kicks him with the ball of his right foot, following with ude hishigi wakigatame. The uke attempts to grab the tori's wrists. The tori pulls his hands back and breaks the uke's balance to the front. He then kicks the uke in the solar plexus with the ball of his right foot, and taking hold of the uke's left wrist from below, traps the arm with his right armpit to apply ude hishigi wakigatame. Notice how the tori breaks the uke's balance. He pulls his wrists backward and out to break the uke's balance to the front. When applying atemi with the ball of his foot, the tori should kick the uke in the solar plexus. If he is too close to the uke, he may sometimes apply atemi with his kneecap. Once the tori has succeeded in controlling the uke indicates mairi or surrender. In Kime no Kata, this may be done by patting the tori or the mat twice, depending on the technique. Tsukake. From the hizazume position, the uke shouts and attempts to punch the tori in the solar plexus. The tori dodges the punch and pulls the uke's right arm forward to break his balance and punches him between the eyes. He then immediately takes the uke's right wrist with his right hand and with his left grabs high on the uke's right lapel to restrain his neck and locks his right elbow with ude hishigi haragatame. When applying the arm lock, the tori should grab high on the uke's right lapel, draw the uke's right wrist towards the joint of his right thigh, and press his lower abdomen against the uke's elbow with the back of the uke's hand facing up. Suriage. The uke thrusts his right hand up at the tori's forehead. The tori deflects the blow, pulls the uke down on the mat, and locks his right arm. The uke thrusts the palm of his hand up at the tori's forehead, making sure that his fingers are together and extended. The tori deflects the blow and breaks the uke's balance to the front. At the same time, he kicks the uke in the solar plexus with the ball of his right foot and twists the uke down onto his face. The tori pushes the uke's right arm up, presses his knee against the uke's elbow, and completes the lock by pulling slightly with his right hand. Note how the tori uses his hands. He places his right hand on the uke's wrist and his left under the uke's armpit and immediately applies atemi. He then brings his right knee down and twists the uke firmly down onto the mat. This is how the tori controls the uke's arm. The tori should make sure not to be on his toes. Yokouchi. The uke shouts and strikes at the tori's temple. The tori ducks under the uke's arm and steps forward, using his arms and neck to restrain the uke in katagatame and pushes the uke down. Immediately following with atemi in the solar plexus. From a different angle, restraining the uke's right arm, the tori's left hand presses the back of the uke's right hip to push him down. His left hand now presses the uke's right elbow, and his right elbow strikes the uke in the solar plexus. Now the two sit about 1.2 meters apart, facing each other. The uke stands and walks around behind the tori from the right, stopping one pace directly behind him. He then sits and draws himself towards the tori. Ushirodori. The uke grabs the tori from behind. The tori rolls to his left as if performing ippon seoi nage in makikomi and applies atemi. The uke shouts and puts his arms around the tori's upper arms. The tori loosens the hold by raising his arms to the side, grabs the uke's upper arms and rolls to his left as if performing ippon seoi nage. He follows with ushiro kesagatame and punches the uke in the groin. When rolling to the left, the tori slides his right leg back between the uke's legs. The uke advances on his knees and takes up his sitting position behind the tori. He then stands and walks around the tori's right side till they come face to face in toma, 1.2 meters apart. Now the uke stands and goes to get the dagger. He places the dagger, blade up, inside his jacket. He then returns to sit facing the tori. He positions himself 45 centimeters from the tori, and then they can proceed to tsukomi. The tori evades the attack, punches the uke between the eyes, the uto, and locks his elbow. The uke grabs the scabbard from outside his jacket, unsheathes the dagger blade up, and strikes at the tori's solar plexus. The tori evades the attack, raises his right knee, and punches the uke's uto with his right fist. He takes the uke's wrist with the same hand and pulls it towards his right thigh. His left hand grips the uke's right lapel to apply a choke, while the uke's elbow is locked with ude hishigi haragatame. Note the atemi to the uto. When applying atemi with a fist, the back of the hand should be facing down. The tori grips high on the uke's right lapel with his left hand and with his right takes the uke's wrist and draws it towards his right hip to apply the lock. Kirikomi. The uke reaches inside his jacket to remove the dagger and sticks it in his belt on his left side. Here, the dagger is used as a substitute for a short sword. Note the way the uke sticks the dagger in his belt. The tori should evade the uke's attempt to slash the top of his head, deflect the strike, catch his wrist, and apply the lock. The uke frees the dagger with his left hand, draws the dagger with his right hand, steps forward with his right foot, and shouts as he tries to slash the top of the tori's head. The tori pivots to the right on his left knee and controls the uke with ude hishigi wakigatame. In applying wakigatame, the tori should grip the uke's wrist with both hands, twist the arm so that the little finger is turned up, and lock the arm by pulling it forward at an angle. The tori should make sure not to try and catch the uke's kirikomi. He should deflect the strike and apply the lock. The uke returns to his original position and sits facing the tori. He then puts the short sword, in this case a dagger, back into its scabbard at his left side, then places it inside his jacket. The uke stands and comes over to the tori's right side and sits next to him at a distance of 20 centimeters to proceed to yokotsuki. The tori evades the uke's attempt to stab him in the side and punches the uke in the uto, following with ude hishigi haragatame. The uke grips the dagger scabbard from outside his jacket, unsheathes the dagger blade up, steps forward with his left foot and attempts to stab the tori. The tori pivots 180 degrees to the right and deflects the uke's arm at the elbow with his left hand and punches the uke in the uto with his right fist. He then grabs high on the uke's right lapel and applies a choke while applying ude hishigi haragatame. Let's take a closer look at the movements. The tori deflects the uke's elbow and follows immediately with a punch to the uto. He presses the uke's elbow against his lower abdomen to apply haragatame. The uke then stands, turns around, and walks to where the sword is. He sits in seiza and lays the dagger down in its original position. Now tachiai. The uke and tori stand together. The uke turns and comes to within one pace of the tori. Ryote dori.